What's up YouTube, it's Darius back with another video, and today we got a little bit of a change of point of view. I brought a special guest with us today. I brought Grandma Ray Don't Play. Guys, if you don't know who Grandma Ray Don't Play is, she runs her own cooking channel with 16,000 subscribers, and she is also my grandmother, ironically. So Grandma Ray, please introduce yourself. Welcome to the channel.
Hi. As he said, I am Rachel, and my channel is Grandma Ray Don't Play, and it's a pleasure being here with Darius on his channel. This is my first appearance on his channel. I'm excited.
Yes, and guys, today we're going to be talking about real estate. Guys, if you don't know, I am huge into real estate. I love real estate. I'm actually working on getting my real estate agent license, and I will be producing more real estate content for the future to come. So if you guys are interested in real estate, definitely subscribe to the channel. Make sure you guys smash that like button. And, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below of how you feel about this interview. We're going to run over a few questions about buying properties, dealing with tenants, and how can you start and get your first property and start getting some cash flow coming in from your first rental property. Alright, so I'm going to be running through a few questions here. Grandma Ray Don't Play, or Grandma Ray, how did you get into real estate?
I got into real estate at age 22 because at age 18 I was renting an apartment. And I just kept thinking about I wasn't getting anything for my money that I was paying rent for. I believe my rent at that time was $750, and it was a one-bedroom apartment, and I had 2 dogs, and so of course that was a crowded situation. So I thought about what I could do to keep some of my money, and that led me to think about going into real estate, which I did.
Awesome. And how was the process with buying more properties? Or how was the process acquiring more properties? How many properties have you owned in total?
About 5.
About 5. And how was the process with getting loans for each property?
Okay, so the first one I didn't get a loan for. I bought it. I went to the city of Boston, and I asked to have my house that I was interested in put up on auction because the city had taken it over for non-payment of taxes. And I didn't really know how an auction worked, but I knew if I went to an auction, I could pay cash, and then the house would be mine free and clear. And that would immediately free up some equity, immediately. Because if you pay for it cash, whatever the value of the property is what you can cash in on. So you can get like a loan on it or refinance and get money off of it. So that was my whole goal.
And how were you able to acquire the cash to buy these properties?
I worked 3 jobs.
Wow.
I had no children at that time, so my goal was to just work round the clock, and every time I had $100, $50, $500, $1,000, whatever I had, I would constantly go to the bank and deposit that money in, because I was so afraid if I didn't take it there that I might spend it on something and I wouldn't reach my goal. Remind you that now I was 22, so that's how a 22-year-old maybe thinks.
So just so I have everything clear, was it the first property you bought cash, or was it the second one?
Yes, the first property I bought cash.
And how much was that?
That was $3,200. Now, back then, that would seem like a lot of money. Today, it seems like nothing.
Crazy.
And I'm talking over 45 years ago.
Okay.
And let me remind everybody that is thinking about doing that. Maybe you're young, ambitious, and you want to do this. Maybe you might want to consider your goals and your objective of buying a house before you decide to have children, so that, you know, because when you have children you have other expenses, right? But at least if you're single, you can dedicate all your money and time to your goal of buying a house.
Now, how many units would you recommend somebody to buy to start off with? Should they start off with a single family, 2-unit, or just, if they have the money, go for 4 units?
I started out with a 2-family, and when you buy a house on auction or from the city or from HUD, it may need some repairs, most likely. So I did the repairs, and I took that 2-family from a 2-family to a 3-family, and that increased my revenue. So let me give you for instance.
Okay.
So when you have a 1-family, it's all on you, and very little can be deducted from your taxes, because you know you can't deduct repairs because they're your repairs. So I suggest getting a 2-family or more, that, you know, which is called a multi-family, right?
Because there's more tax write-offs?
Everything you do to the tenant's apartment is a tax write-off.
So guys, you gotta keep that in mind. So if you're buying a single family and you're making all these repairs to your property, guys, you cannot write off any of this stuff. But if you have a 2-family property or more, you guys can write off repairs that you made to the tenant side. Can you get away with making repairs to your side as well?
Only some things, very little, that you can deduct from yourself.
Okay, but it's better than having no write-offs at all.
Well, you have very little, so that's why having the tenant there helps with the write-off, and also it 70% of the money that you would get from the apartment is counted towards you being approved for more money than what you would normally be approved for if you was getting a 1-family. So 1-family, it goes just off of you and your family income. But once you start getting a 2-family, a 3-family or more, then a percentage of the rent that you would receive from the tenant it goes towards increasing your income, so that your buying power is more.
And Grandma Ray, have you heard of house hacking before? Have you heard of that term used
No,
before?
I haven't. What is
that? So
house
hacking is when you own a 2-family or more, and you living in one side, and the tenant pays a rent, but the rent is enough to cover your mortgage. So you're basically living for free. Was that the situation you were in? Where the tenant's rent was able to pay off your mortgage, and you were able to live for free?
Well, remember, my first house that we were talking about was paid for cash.
Right, that's true.
So
okay.
all the tenant money was free and clear.
100% of the money
100%
was going to her.
100%. And I suggest to you guys to really look into HUD housing that you could purchase. The latest thing I've heard about is pre-foreclosure, and then there's foreclosure. Those properties you could really take advantage of, in terms of maybe you saved up enough that you could pay cash, and then you're going into it on the real bright side, because now all of your money is free and clear, and that means you got 100% equity in the property. 100%, because it's paid for.
And after acquiring now, did you have all 5 of these properties at once?
No.
So you sold one to get the next one, or
Correct.
how was that process?
Correct.
Okay.
My goal was to buy, fix up, sell. Buy, fix up, sell. And so I just kept doing that. And so what happens is, the first one I bought was a 2-family, and I renovated it and turned it to a 3. And then the next one I bought was a 3, and the next one was a 4. So you just keep going like that. And because once you get your momentum down and your rents are really flowing. Now your rents don't always flow. I don't want to give you the impression that you're going to always get paid. You are not going to always get paid. You know, and a judge looks at it as who has the deeper pocket. So of course the landlord has the deeper pocket, so they're going to be more sympathetic to the tenant than they are the landlord.
Oh, okay. And let's get into that. How was it dealing with tenants?
It was rewarding, and of course there's always a difficult side to things, right? So when I say rewarding, I really got to know people on a personal level. I got to know their kids and to love on them and that sort of thing. And then on the downside of that, there was, like, for instance, I had a tenant once, and he couldn't pay the rent, and he kept telling me every Friday. He said, "Oh no, I'm gonna get paid Friday. I'm gonna pay you Friday." And up until that point, he had never missed a beat. So it's kind of, and when you get attached, it's kind of difficult to believe that the person is telling you they're gonna pay you on Friday, and then the next Friday, and the next Friday, and the next Friday, and nothing's happening until finally you realize that this tenant is just no longer gonna be paying, and the ultimate eviction may have to start. And you should do that. You should not wait on eviction. You know, after you feel like you've given it enough time, then it's time for you to have a serious talk with them and let them know that you don't want to do that, but in the same token, you know, you do need the income so that you can take care of your mortgage, your taxes, and that sort of thing. Because those bills still roll no matter whether someone's paying or not. You have to pay your taxes, your water bill, you have electric bill for the electricity in the hallways and around the perimeters of the property. And so all of these things are still rolling, and so you have to run that like a business. Even though I got personal with the tenants, you do still have to draw the line. You can be personal, but you do have to draw the line.
Okay. And can you give us some tips or tricks, or some tricks of how you were able to get more money out of your properties? I think that's something that will really interest people.
Okay, so let's say you bought a property, and you can see where you could possibly have a contractor come in and divide the space up so that let's say you got one huge room, and you could see where you could make another bedroom out of that huge room and still have ample space left over for the other part of that room. You might want to consider doing that. Of course, you'll have to get a permit, and or a contractor will have to take care of that problem and do that, so that, because the more bedrooms you have, the more you get paid. Wow. You do not get paid for large rooms, even though they're nice.
That's a huge tip for you guys out there. Definitely, that's a major one.
Yes, and also you do not get paid for glorified yards. You do not get paid for a finished basement. You do not get paid for having beautiful lights outside. None of that pays the bill.
Now, if somebody was able to buy their first property and they see that they have the potential to finish the basement, would that be a great area to work on to make that into an apartment, or it depends on how it's laid out?
Well, most basements are kind of difficult to make an apartment because you need 2 exits. And usually you don't have 2 exits from a basement. So it would have to be joined with the first floor apartment, because then there's your second exit when you go up to the first floor apartment, and maybe a door coming out of the basement. So that will give you your 2 exits. Other than that, you can't renovate that as an apartment because you don't have 2 exits.
So basically, you wouldn't be able to rent that out if you didn't have 2 exits. If you did have 2 exits in the basement, you can make that an apartment. Possibility.
You can. But you're probably gonna get more bang for your money if you include it in with the first floor, because then you can make additional rooms. But you cannot just send someone in the basement. You have to have a fireproof wall around the furnace area. Okay. Because if that fire goes off in the furnace or where the furnace is, they need to be protected. So there's really rules that you have to follow the contractor will have to follow in redoing a basement.
Okay. And can you give us a difficult tenant story? I know most landlords, they have to go through the process of evicting a tenant, but sometimes there's some crazy stories before even coming to the point where you have to process that eviction. Then when you even process that eviction, the story gets even crazier. So do you have like a crazy or a difficult tenant story?
I'll go back to the story that I was telling earlier. It was embarrassing to the tenant that they couldn't pay. And so the tenant felt that he needed to tell me stories that he was going to pay every Friday. And at some point, he stopped talking at all. Now that was very difficult, because when the communication stops, you can rest assured that there's nothing going to happen with your money at that point. It is a definite wash. And so at the end of it all, he left without speaking and that sort of thing, because not that I stopped speaking, but he did, because I don't think he wanted to deal with the problem of it. And it wasn't, it's not always a tenant's fault that they run short, because we can all run short.
Yes, definitely. 2020 is a great example of people running short this year.
Yes. So I would say the difficulty of that is that he couldn't see his way, and he couldn't get out that hole, and he felt shame about it. And he didn't feel like he could leave with grace, and that was the difficulty of that.
So how was it trying to get that tenant out of the property? Did the sheriff have to come? Did he say, I'm not leaving, you're gonna have to drag me out of here?
No, once we went to court, he knew the date that he was supposed to be out, and he did leave.
Okay.
Yeah, he did leave.
And that was like the most difficult tenant you ever dealt with? Was there any more that was difficult? That one seems pretty easy. Went to court, he left?
Well, some might hang around. Some did hang around an extra couple of weeks or something, but eventually they know that you can just call the sheriff, and the sheriff is gonna make sure they go out, so they don't want that.
So it never came to that point where the sheriff had to come knocking on the door?
No, I never had that. But if you do have a tenant that refused to go, and you have an eviction from the court, you do call the sheriff. The sheriff will give another 24 or 48 hour notice, and then if they're not gone after that, then the sheriff can come back. Now, also, other things could happen. A tenant could go to the court and at the last minute and say some hardship or something like that, and they go in front of the judge, and the judge could extend that time even though you had an initial date for them to go out. Just so you know that. So my point in telling you all of this, you guys need to save your money for these unknown times, because there are going to be times when the tenant may not pay, or your furnace may not work, or you need to replace a hot water heater, or the roof is leaking, and you don't always have that kind of money to call a contractor. Sometimes you may have to figure out how to do this stuff yourself. Go on YouTube, learn how to put in a hot water heater, and stuff like that. Now the furnace, you do need a plumber, a licensed plumber, but some things you can do on your own. Let's say if the faucet is gone and you need to replace the faucet. You don't have to get a plumber to replace a faucet. But if you choose to pay through the nose every time something happens, then that eats into your profit, and at the end result, can you survive the long haul? And another thing I want to tell you is, don't think that you're going to be in a property forever just because you sign a mortgage for 30 years. Yeah. And I do want to talk about the mortgage payments, 15 years versus 30.
Okay.
So, if you get a mortgage that's 30 years, it makes the payment lower, okay? If you get a mortgage for 15 years, the payment is higher, but the years is shorter. So, you got to look at it and say, okay, how old am I? So, if I was 50 years old buying a property, I don't think I would sign on for a 30-year mortgage, because chances are you going to be really working at 70, 80, maybe not. Most likely not, okay? So once you're no longer working, your income decrease.
But could you sell the property though?
You could, but at that age you get attached. You say, well, where am I going to go? It's kind of hard to teach your old dog new tricks. Okay. Right?
Yep.
So it's better if you could have that property paid off. So going back to 50, if you're 50 and you get a 15-year mortgage, at 65 you'll be finished. Now at 65 is when you retire. So, at least now, because you're getting less money based on retirement than you was working, at least you can survive because you no longer have that mortgage payment that is going to hold you out. That's why you see a lot of senior citizens still in their house, because they already did that, paid that price all those years. And so now they feel like it's time for them to celebrate what they paid into. But this is the catch that gets most senior citizens. The city will raise the taxes, they'll raise the water bill, to the point that even though they have paid for the house, they can't afford the water bill and the taxes.
Right, I believe they call that gentrification, where the area starts to improve and it gets more expensive. So senior citizens or people who don't have high enough income, they'll be forced to sell their properties and go into other cheaper markets.
Yes, or there's another mortgage, I think it's called reverse mortgage, where the senior citizen can stay in the house, but the mortgage company will actually pay them a check. And the problem is if they pass, that whoever is the heir to that property, they're going to have to come up with that money that mortgage company was paying to their parents.
Interesting.
And if they don't, they lose the property.
Okay. Wow. So Grandma Ray, thank you for coming on to the show.
So soon?
Guys, I wanna pull a move out of Grandma's Ray playbook. At the end of the video or in between her videos, she would do a word of the day. And guys, this word of the day, it's more of like, what would you call it?
Food for thought.
Food for thought. Hey, cooking channel, food for thought. Get it? Yes. So Grandma Ray, please drop us your word of the day.
Okay, so the word of the day is cash. Cash. You can choose to do whatever you want with your cash. You can waste it on sneakers. You can waste it on fancy cars. You can waste it on a mate. You can waste it on your hairdo and your nails. You can just really run through it in a reckless way. Or you can choose to be positive with your cash. You know, save for the dreams that you have. Save for the goals that you have. Save for that rainy day. Save for that house that you long for. Cash can be a good thing and it could be a bad thing depending on how you use it.
Love it.
So if I was you, I would save that cash. That's the word of the day.
Love it. Like, comment, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And as always, guys, subscribe. Later.